Welcome this morning, guys. I'm so happy to have you all here. I know it's been a bit of a crazy time. We're not having church, all that kind of stuff, but we still have lessons. I can still talk to you guys. I'm happy to do that. Today we're going to be going over the story from Adam to Jesus. We're going up about how his life, or the people before him, led up to his time here on earth. It's a bit of a long story, a little confusing. I'm going to make it as easy for y'all as possible. All right. So before he came here to earth, before Jesus came here to earth as a human being, God the Son existed with the Father, with God. No one created God or Jesus. They've always existed. I know that's a big concept. It's hard for me to understand too. But God he also created the first people, Adam and Eve. They were the first people ever to walk the face of the earth, right? But unfortunately, they didn't obey him. They got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. All along, God had planned to send his Son to go save us so that we could be in a relationship with him. At just the right time, Jesus came to earth as a baby. He was born to Mary, the wife of Joseph. Jesus is different than any other baby born because he's fully God and fully human. That's a difficult concept. He had this relationship with God where he was not, he didn't sin. He didn't commit anything wrong. He always lived a perfect life. He always did what was best for his people, the Jews, and us, his children, in relationship with him. Yet he lived life fully as a human. He was subject to human sin. He never sinned, but it could affect him. Satan tried to tempt him, right? These things that affected us as people, if we're walking on the ground and, we step on a rock, it hurts. He probably stepped on some rocks in his life, it hurt. Just because he was God doesn't mean that he could not be affected the way that we were affected, right? Like all people on earth, Jesus' family has had a history, a family tree, like your family tree, right? I have a family tree, I have a father, a grandfather, so on and so forth. It goes all the way back, right? Jesus had the same thing. He had people related to him. He had grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, and that goes back and back for many generations. Jesus was born into the family of Abraham and the family of King David. Abraham had a son named Isaac, and when Isaac had a family, one of his sons was named Jacob. Jacob was a part of Jesus' family. Years later, a man named Salmon was born into Jesus' family tree. He married Rahab, who hid the Israelite spies who came to Jericho. Rahab had a kid named Boaz, and Boaz was a farmer and he married Ruth. These are all people that we've seen throughout the Bible. We've gone over their stories, their wonderful testimonies that we see in the Bible. Boaz and Ruth had a son. And that son was named Obed, and his son was Jesse. And Jesse had many sons, just like the song. His youngest was David, and David was just a boy, but then one day he would become Israel's king. King David liked to write, and he wrote a song called Psalms. Some of them were about the time when Jesus would come. Some other people in Jesus' family were like kings too. David's son Solomon was a king, and King Jehoshaphat was a part of Jesus' family. Just like Uzziah, Ahaz, and Hezekiah and Josiah, all part of Jesus' family. God's people returned home from exile in Babylon. And then his son Zerubbabel later was born. Nathan's son was Jacob, and Jacob came Joseph, and from Joseph came Jesus, right? Jesus had a kid with Mary, Mary was a virgin, and Jesus was still Joseph's son. But they raised Jesus to become the Messiah. He lived for 33 years on this earth, and later on in the coming weeks, we're going to go over all the wonderful things that he has done on this planet for us and for so many other people. So I know in recent weeks we've been going over the books of the Bible, so I encourage y'all to see if you can find the weekly passage for this week. So it's John 1, 1 through 2. It's in these Bibles. I don't know if you want to go grab it. I'll give you a second to go get that. It's a great verse. I remember this one I've personally known for a very long time. I had to memorize it in school. It's a great line. All right. So, John 1, 1 through 2. It says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning." So this verse basically means that God has existed for all time. He was there in the beginning. He'll be there in the end, right? And that Word, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus, they were all together, right? They existed together in the beginning. Just like how we've gone over in the passage for this week, the story for this week, where God existed in the beginning, then created Adam, and his line goes from there until Jesus came to this earth and lived out his life and his testimony and his servanthood for us to be in relationship with God. All right, I encourage y'all to memorize this verse. I have it memorized, is one of my favorite verses, and I know y'all can do it too. Anyway, have a good week. We're going to go over some questions with Raya in just a second, and then that'll be it for this week. Hey guys, we got Raya Smith here. She's going to help me out with a couple of discussion questions, just like we go over every week. All right, question number 1. How is Jesus' family and his family line different than any other family line?
I gotta think about that one, and I think you do too. So, if you want to pause this video just for a second and discuss with your parents or your siblings, or just think about it yourself, totally feel free. But I think Spivey has an awesome answer for us. So what do you think, Ethan?
All right, so 2 things. 1, Jesus was both fully God and fully man. The things that affect us could affect him. But yet, he was in a full relationship with God. You know, he was fully on God's level. He never did anything wrong, which is point number 2. He never sinned. He could not sin at all, right? We live our lives, and I guarantee you, I've done something wrong, Raya's done something wrong, all of y'all have done something wrong in your life. It's not a bad thing, we can't really help it, but we want to strive to be like Jesus, because he walked this earth for 33 years and never did a single thing wrong. All right, question number 2. What does it mean to be adopted into God's family?
Well, to be adopted into God's family is just to be like in the family of your own. I know you have a mom or a dad or a grandma or a grandpa or a brother or a sister, and you probably know them pretty well. You probably know the color of their eyes or the color of their hair, and you also probably listen to your parents, hopefully. So being adopted into God's family is just like being in your family. It's knowing God, it's knowing his love, it's knowing his peace, but it's also obeying him and listening to him when he speaks to you and talking to him daily. What would it be like if you lived with your family but you just didn't talk to them? Wouldn't that be kind of weird? That's what it means to be adopted into God's family, is to talk, listen, and know. So that's all the discussion questions we have for today, and we hope that you've enjoyed watching WaterStone Kids live. See you later.